Hello and welcome to the Sands of Eternity, where legends are reborn. On today's episode, we have our first unit deep dive. We will be focusing on Ushabti. We will be looking at how to run them, how to equip them, their stat line, and what they're effective against. So, let's get on to the units. Before we get on to the actual Ushabti themselves, I just want to talk about one of the special rules that makes them so efficient. The arrows of Assaf. Units with this special rule never apply any modifiers to their roll to hit when shooting, regardless of the source of the modifier. So this is very crucial. So this special rule is across our army. It means our shooting units basically just hit on their ballistic skills. We can't improve it, we can't negate them. So for our skeleton archers, we're hitting on 5s all the time. Doesn't matter about range, movement, cover. But for our Ushabti, who we'll have a look now, have ballistic skill 3, it means they're always hitting on 4s. Doesn't matter if you can only see one model. Doesn't matter if they're hiding in a forest. Doesn't matter if they're miles away. And it doesn't matter if we've moved, okay? We are always going to hit on 4. And this is very crucial. And it's what makes kind of the Tomb King shooting really strong. So, now let's move on to the Ushabti themselves. The Ushabti themselves then. So they are a special option for all armies of infamy and our grand army. However, in the mortuary court, you can take one unit as core, and this is really crucial. And I think if you're playing mortuary court, you are seeing a unit of Ushabti, usually 6 or 7 wide, and we'll understand why. So the Ushabti have movement 5, weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 3, strength 4, toughness 4, 3 wounds, initiative 2. It's not the best there. 3 attacks and leadership 8, and they are 49 points each. So unit 3 is setting you back 147 points. The ancient for plus 7 points is plus 1 attack. They are monstrous infantry, so they've got a good unit strength of 3 each, which really makes them potentially cause your enemy to fall back. And also with our fear special rule, forces them to actually not charge after you've got to stand and shoot, which is great. They are 3+. They have hand weapons, ritual blades, and heavy armor. So the ritual blade is a strength 2 -3, requires 2 hand strike last. So it's a AP 3 great weapon. So it would put these guys at strength 6 -3, 3 attacks each. It is really good kind of monster killing, and it's really strong. They, as said, can take an ancient for 7 points to increase the extra attack and be able to use versus challenges. The entire unit may replace their ritual blade with great bows. So this is really where you see them kind of thrive. So great bows at 30-inch range, strength 6, AP -1, armor bane 2, multi wounds 2, and volley fire. So this stat line is phenomenal. It's on par of just a normal bolt throw. That's usually strength 6, AP -3 with the 2 damage. But what makes this great is that you get loads of shooting. You're always hitting on 4, where bolt throwers usually what let them down. They're hitting on 5s and 6s, maybe even 7s if you're playing with the goblin ones. Whereas these are always going to be hitting on 4s, and we've got options for rerolls. The multi-wounds 2 is massive. So one of the kind of threats of the current edition is Pegasus Knights. But what's great about them, they're only T4 and they're 2 wounds each. So these are basically the anti-Pegasus Knight gun. And it's brilliant to have them. So onto their special rules. As we've already talked about, they have the arrows of Assaf. So that means they're always going to hit on 4s. They're close order, which is great for the combat res. Indomitable 1. Once again, when we get into combat, we're there just hoping to survive. And we're taking off one of our combat res. It's brilliant. They have Kapesh. That means our hand weapons. So when we take our Great Woe, our hand weapons are AP1. So on the kind of the charge, or when we get charged, we have 3 attacks each at strength 4 -1, which is pretty handy. So the things that I kind of try and get into them, it just means it just helps a bit. And so like I've had infantry charge in, I've been able to deal with them. I've had cavalry charge in who haven't been able to kill them off, and I come back with 6, 9 attacks at strength 4 AP -1. So wounding most cav on 3s or 4s, taking a pip of their armor is just really handy. And obviously with our stand and shoot, with our great bows, you have usually taken 1 or 2 down, so the combat res is up there. And they have regeneration 6+, so it just gives them that extra save. We also obviously have our Nekaran Undead, so it makes us have fear. And because we're monstrous infantry, having a unit strength of 3 is really strong. So as you said, when they try and charge you, cavalry from a unit 4 needs to have at least 6 models charging you. We're seeing a lot of 5s, so it means they have to take that fear check. And if they fail, they're just sat there. and it's brilliant. They can't do anything else, and they're a target that we don't have to worry about. So, how to kind of use our Ushabti. So if you look at the images below, I play them all with bows. I just think their efficiency of keeping you at range, and then if you come into them, I've still got plenty of attacks. I use them more of a kind of like a front line where my swarms and characters can hide behind and use them as kind of like they are my protection. I run them in squads of 6 or 7 if I'm trying to fill out my core, but I am very favourable for the squads of 4 and make them kind of work in kind of teams, be able to deal with chariots and or other targets. I'd say if you go first versus, let's say, Beastmen, they've got their Gorgons. Usually a unit of 4 can maybe take it down before it gets to you if you go first. With obviously the 30-inch range, moving 5, it's just, they can't hide from them basically. So, and then obviously once they get into combat, our whole idea is that we've got to just try and keep them alive, okay? We've done probably wounds on stand and shoot. We're quite tanky at T4, 3 wounds, so like cavalry. So let's take a Knights of the Realm. They're going to have 6 attacks into the unit. They're hitting on 4s. They're wounding on 3s because they're only strength 5 on the charge with their lances. Yes, they go for armor, but we have regen. They probably kill 1 guy. So we'll hit back with 5 or 6, and because they're in a lance, we get all of our attacks. Even if, let's say, they really hurt and there's a character and they've killed off a lot, our aim is if we survive with 1 wound, we are able to res them back up. So in my mortuary court, there was one game I played versus Tom, Chorf's player, who was playing with Wolf at Sea. He charged in with them. I survived, I think, on 2 wounds, and I was able to res them back up to just full 6-man, but just missing a wound. Because they're monstrous infantry, so they get your wizard level. So you're getting 4 wounds a turn, and the cult you're getting 5, and it's just really strong. So it's that idea of if we can survive, they're going to be there next turn. And if you win a combat, because you might potentially with your standing shooting, you can push them back, and then you just have enough time to just shooting them, and it is just really strong. So that's kind of the unit themselves, kind of a breakdown of how they work, and say the ways I would kind of run them. A big unit, 6 as a gun line, a few 4s as covering your flanks and taking down their kind of targets. And then once they get into combat, keep them alive, hopefully to 1 wounds. Caskets, -1 to hit is massive on them, and also the 6-up ward. And if you've got urban ramparts with your elemental wizard, you can get them that 5-up ward. So you can have a 5-up, 5-up, 6-up, and it makes them just really durable versus kind of most threats. So that's the unit. That's roughly how I will play them. Now let's actually go into some maths and see what we can take down and what we can deal with. So starting off, we have our kind of to hit on. So with ballistic skill 3, we have the arrows of Assaf. That means we're always going to hit them for. So we've got 50% chance to hit whatever we want. Obviously, we've got a really great spell from our Law of Nakara. We can reroll 1s. Okay, this ups us by 8% for each shot, because of the chances of getting it. So it's just an overall 8% buff to kind of our shooting potential here and our hitting. So obviously 6 shots, you should hopefully get 3 through. With that reroll 1s, you might get an extra 1 probably. You're probably looking at about 4 hits. Obviously you could spike quite well. The Tomb King's Dice definitely seem to be doing that. But it's that idea that we are getting about 3 or 4 hits through. So it's really just reliable. Imagine that every turn for 4 turns. That's 16 hits on average kind of thing. 12 to 16 kind of hits on average from just a unit of 6. Don't forget we'll have our 4s as well, so they're getting about 1.5 through, probably about 1.5 a turn. So once again, 4 turns of that, it's about 6 hits going through. So it's just this volume of fire that versus large targets, versus Pegasus Knights, versus chariots are just a threat. And if you get that first turn, you can just keep them at bay, and with the support of wizards, we can really hurt them. So onto our kind of our strength here. So as we talked about, we are strength 6. So kind of T4 and below, we're hitting on a 2+. That's the lowest we can hit on. So we've got 5/6 of chance. It's about 84% chance to kind of go through. So it's really quite kind of reliable. Versus T5, we're still stronger than them. So we're in on a 3+. So we're about 66% wounding. And T6, kind of the highest toughness we usually see, bar kind of the Grey Uncaline one, and kind of the Mantle of Stone, Sorcerer Prophet. So big monsters, you're going to wound them half the time. You've got 4+, kind of once again, it's this reliability that they can bring. and it's just the volume of fire that you can bring. So a recent list I played with 16 bow Ushabti, I think it was, or 15 bow Ushabti, and it's just that 15 shots a turn, hitting on forwards to strength 6. It's just the reliability. So that's how strong we are. It's brilliant. It's great. I'd say the targets that we really want to go after is probably the T4, T5, so the chariots, the cavalry, the Peg Knights. I'm going to keep reminding that because it's probably one of our biggest threats we want to deal with. So now let's have a look at our opponent's save. So we are AP1, okay, so it's brilliant. So we're knocking those 3s up to 4s, 4s up to 5s, etc. We're armor bane 2, so this is really crucial. So if we roll a 6 to wound, obviously a 6 for the time, we're going to be AP3. So it means those targets that have those 3-up saves, got those really high saves, they're saving on 6s. So that's the one we usually see versus kind of plate armor cavalry. We're wounding, they've got a 5-up save. And what makes them really strong at the moment, Ushabti, is kind of an elementalism and using Plague of Rust, so becoming more of a elemental shooting army. Having that Plague of Rust means we're already AP3. So Peg Knights, cavalry, all going to only have a 6-up save. If we get that AP Armor Bane, nothing in the game will get a save, because the highest you can get is a 2+. So let's say versus, let's say a character, he's got a 2+. We're getting them to a 5-up save just from our normal shooting. If we get Armor Bane, they're straight onto their wards or regen, and it can really support us. So those are our kind of maths behind our hitting, our wounding, and how we can deal with our opponent's saves. So I'm going to have a look at 2 kind of targets that I would really prioritise our Ushabti shooting at. Okay, one is the Peg Knights, so in the Brett's matchup, this is our crucial thing, and the other is kind of a chariot, because I think units of 4 are what I'll be using for my chariot hunters. So I'm going to start off with the Peg Knights. So I hit them half the time. I'm going to wound them on 2s because they're only a 2+, only T4, and they've got a 4-up save from my -1. Okay, I'm taking this from an Exiles because that seems to be the kind of strong way of playing them at the moment still, with the vanguarding Peg Knights, with the Frontier Axe, and really applying pressure. So these are kind of, and so the odds of me actually just killing one, because don't forget, we are 2 damage, is 20%. So each time I fire out a Peg Knight, there's a 20% chance each shot is going to kill them. Okay, it doesn't seem great, but a unit of 4, it gets you to about one kill a turn. Unit of 6, 1.5. It just makes them that reliability. But the crucial thing is because we're that 2 damage, if you spike a bit on the hits, because you don't need to worry about the wounds, because you're wounding on 2s, okay, and they fail a couple of those saves, they're just lost Peg Knights. They have lost roughly about the same points to one of our shooting. So if I go turn 1, I get a volley of fire off. Let's say they've angled up, so they really want to pressure my Ushabti. I kill one. On the kind of charge, I stand and shoot. I kill another. So they're down 2 Peg Knights already. So they're left with 3 Peg Knights. They charge into a 6-man blob. Let's say I've got my light of protection up, so a -1 to hit. So they're hitting my Ushabti on 5s, because they're only weapon skill 4. And it's the idea, if I just survive with one of them, 1 wound, I'm just going to bring them all back, especially in the cult. So they make these perfect killers of Peg Knights. So this is just our kind of raw stats. If we don't have any buffs to them, no rerolls, no Plague of Rust. But now let's have a look at it. Let's make it see our favourable kind of position. So our hits on 4s with the rerolls, as we looked earlier, gets us a 58% chance of hitting. Brilliant. We're still winning on 2s, so we've got 5 or 6 chance. But their innate save is 5/6. They've got to get that 6+, or it's another dead person. So it doubles to that 40% chance to kill. Okay, so now that unit of 4 is taking down about 1.5 each. Unit of 6 is pushing, taking down 2.5, 3. And it really makes them just really terrified to come at us. And if they are in bad position, or they failed their fear check and they're stood there, we Plague of Rust them, we hit them with a volley of Ushabti, and likely there isn't going to be any Peg Knights left, or enough Peg Knights that actually want to charge the Ushabti. They're more than either try and hide them, or trying to press behind lines, trying to get our characters. So Peg Knights are what make Ushabti great. They are the perfect tool to deal with them. They're 2 wounds with 2 damage. They're T4, I'm T6, I wound you on that too. And if they're in Exiles, they only have that 4-up save. If they are in Grand Army or the Errant Crusade, they do go up to they do get that 5-up ward, because we are strength 6. That's our only downside. But versus a normal Grand Army, I'm a bit less scared, because they don't have cannons, they don't have vanguarding pegs, and I can play a bit more like normal, so I don't mind them having that 5-up save. So Pegasus Knights, we know we can deal them. They're nice and juicy for us things. But now let's think of a chariot. So I'm thinking a T5 chariot, kind of like a Chaos chariot, okay, with obviously a 3-up save. So what's going to hit you on 4s? And when you're on 3s this time, so 4 out of 6, and they get a 6+ save. Because once again, we're thinking, I've got Plague of Rust on this chariot. I want to try and deal with it, just get rid of it. The idea is I play with multiple wizards on Elementalism and trying to get probably 2 Plague of Rust. That's kind of my aim. And so the odds of me doing 2 damage is 32%. So a unit of 4, you're probably getting 2 to 4 damage. You're reliably getting 2 damage. So if I shoot it once, it's down to kind of 2 wounds. Most chariots are 4. Kind of the really tough ones are 5 wounds. And if they then try and charge me, I stand and shoot. I get my other 2 damage, and that isn't there. So I had a lovely game versus a mate called Shay. And he had this Gorboy's chariot, and he moved it. I shot it, got it down to 2 wounds. He was like, well, I have to charge it. It's frenzied. He just wants to get in to try and deal with them. Killed it on stand and shoot, and we were just like, Ushabti are pretty good, aren't they? So we've had a look at our lovely Ushabti. As I said, I would probably aim to play them with bows because they can hold up in combat with their strength 4 AP1, 3 attacks, and with the ancient being 4 attacks. As I say, we want to buff them, we want to support them, so having a casket for light protection is really strong. Making them -1 to hit is massive because they're weapon skill 4. Most things are weapon skill 4 or weapon skill 7, so they even hit on 4 and 3. Knocking them up to 4s and 5s is massive and it's really supportive. As I say, we have the fear, we have the unit strength, and if we can get elemental urban ramparts, we can get into that 5-up ward. So having a 5-up, 6-up is massive. As we said, we talked about them playing with their bows and their kind of targets. For me, my Ushabti are after either those chariots, those kind of fast-moving kind of Peg Knights, the things I'm worried that once they hit me, they can start dealing with me, or light monsters, so like your Gorgons. I'm still winning on 4, but they don't have a save really. They've just got a 6-up regen, and I'm playing to kind of deal with them and kind of play a controlling game. So it's this, because I can have 30-inch range, I move 5, I can move up 5, shoot, and then with the reserve move back 2.5, and just keep playing this kind of draw them in, move back, move back, move back. And move into a position where if they're going to charge you, or if they can charge you, they probably would, but make sure you can get that stand and shoot in. So so I would make sure that if potentially they are a frenzied unit, I would purposely probably move my Ushabti up to be within their charge range, but still being able to stand and shoot. Because I think most kind of charges things we can kind of survive because of all our wounds and the 6-up regen, the T4, weapon skill 4, so not a lot of things are hitting us higher. So Ushabti are just brilliant. They work really well within the army because we're very much a wizard heavy, kind of supporting army. And in the cult, they are kind of twice over because we can have them in core. We'll have multiple wizards for our elementalism, for our urban ramparts, and our Plague of Rust. So, have a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next one.